In this lesson, we'll use noise reduction to improve the quality of a clip. Note that you'll need the studio version of Resolve to use this feature. Let's first collapse the keyframe editor and go back to our scopes. Then I'm going to select this second clip here. Let's label this node Balance and give it a quick grade in order to really accentuate the sunrise here. I'll just push up in the gain in the yellow and maybe bring the lift master wheel down just a little bit. These are salt flats, so they are pretty white. Now there's a fair amount of noise in this clip. You can see it if we scrub through it, especially if we zoom closer. I'll go to 200%, click my center mouse button and drag up. And if I scrub back and forth, we can see all of that digital noise due to the low light nature of this clip. To address the noise, I'm going to create a new serial node before this balance node. To do so, I'll use the keyboard shortcut Shift-S. I'll label it NR for noise reduction. Now, I'm creating a separate node because noise reduction can be processor intensive. And by having it on a separate node, I can bypass it easily. I'm creating it before the original node so that the noise reduction uses the original RGB signal. This can result in better noise reduction, but it can also affect the quality of later qualifications. So sometimes you want to try it both before or after your grading. So let's go to the Motion Effects palette. This palette is broken into 3 sections: Temporal noise reduction, Spatial noise reduction, and Motion blur. Temporal noise reduction analyzes the clip across frames to separate noise from detail. In other words, it tracks moving objects to exclude them from the noise reduction. And it's the best starting point for lockdown shots, where the only movement is actual objects in the scene. Spatial noise reduction reduces fine-grained, high-frequency noise that the temporal noise reduction can miss. And then motion blur is not part of noise reduction. It blurs moving objects, but it uses the same analysis engine, and that's why it's here. All right, to get started, we choose a number of frames. This is a number of frames over which the noise is going to be averaged. A higher number is more accurate, but can also take a lot more processing time. Also, if there are an overlapping number of objects, a higher frame number can produce artifacts. Let's use 2. The motion estimation type is for moving objects. Better takes more processing time, but is better. And none is great if you have no objects moving in your shot at all. I'll choose better. We've got a little bit of movement here with this car moving in the background, and there's a little bit of shake in our camera as well. The motion range refers to the speed of the objects. I'll choose small here. Now nothing's actually happened because we haven't changed the temporal threshold. This is what kicks off the noise reduction process. Cranking up the luma and chroma values makes the noise reduction more aggressive. They're linked by default. You can unlink them if you have monochromatic noise, which we don't in this case, so I'll keep them linked. And I'll start cranking up this value. It goes from 0 to 100. We can see an impact already at about 14 or so. And if we scrub through, we can see it's significantly better. Now you need to be careful not to go too far because you'll start to affect objects in the scene. And one way to check that is to use the highlighter in the AB mode. And we can see our noise reduction pattern here. This is what's being removed. But if we start to see objects, we know we've gone too far. I'm going to press Option F for the enhanced viewer and really crank up that threshold. And I'll zoom in a little closer. And in this particular shot, there's really not a lot of detail to pick out. But I'll pull this back down. Option F and Shift H to turn off the highlighter. And let's zoom back in by scrolling the mouse wheel. The motion parameter is the pivot point around which objects are excluded based on the motion settings above. A lower number excludes larger areas. We don't really want to exclude much, so I'll crank this way up, since I want it applied to most of our scene. The blend parameter blends the original image back in. Too much noise reduction on certain scenes can make them look kind of plasticky, so you can blend some of the original back in and make it look better. So what we've done looks better. I'll press Command or Control D to toggle that off and on. You can see a significant difference. But spatial noise reduction can make it look even better by dealing with some of that high frequency noise. The Mode pop-up menu uses different algorithms, and better is significantly better than faster, so I'm going to choose that. The radius refers to what's being analyzed, and larger is better, but once again takes more processing time. I'll choose medium. And just like with temporal noise reduction, the spatial noise reduction doesn't kick in until you start cranking up the spatial threshold. Once again, I'll press Option F for the Enhance Viewer and Shift H to turn on my highlight, crank this up, and you'll notice now we start to see objects in our scene. That means we're removing critical detail that we want. So I'll back off on this, and you need to wait a little bit for it to update, and try to find the right level where we don't see any objects, but we've removed as much noise as possible. And that looks pretty good. Shift H to turn off our highlight, and Command or Control D to toggle it off. And I'll scrub the clip, and we can really see the noise when you scrub it. And back on again. And much better. Now once you've found a good level, you can experiment with placing this node before or after other corrections. To move it, I'll press E to extract it, then move it on the other side of the balance node. And in this case, I'm not seeing a big difference, but it's definitely worth checking that out. I'll extract it with E again and place it back. I'll press Shift Z to fit the clip back to the window. This noise reduction node is really going to affect playback. If I try to play, we can see we're getting a very slow frame rate. I'll stop playback. If I toggle it off, we get full playback. So as you can see, noise reduction can take significant processing resources and affect playback. So we'll leave the node disabled for now. By the way, a great new feature of Resolve 17 is that noise reduction is also now available as an OpenFX on the Edit page. So with noise reduction disabled here in the color page, I'll go to the Edit page, and here under the Effects library under OpenFX, in the Resolve FX Revival category, we have noise reduction. It can be added to a clip right here in the Edit page, and in the Inspector, under the Effects tab, we have all of the parameters that we just reviewed. So a great new feature of Resolve 17 is the ability to apply and adjust noise reduction directly in the Edit page.